reiterate again, it took us all presidents all the way from George Washington until the end of the Bush administration to build up a national debt of $10.6 trillion. At the end of this administration, we will be at $17 trillion, a 70% increase. We're on a pathway to destruction. We can't seem to get our deficit below $1 trillion at the rate we're going. I also just came from a defense discussion, House Armed Services Committee. We're looking at $1 trillion of cuts in the next 10 years. When we're at one of the most dangerous times in history with Iran and other issues on the table. So I'm going to get to kind of a couple of rhetorical questions, and then I'll get to my specific one. We now have, we have a land acquisition request of $53.6 million over last fiscal year. And yet today I look down at the proposed budget request and you see that we have requested 96% for land acquisition. And so I really have to say we seem detached or disconnected here. We're asking for giant leaps, increases in spending at a time when, again, we have to borrow from the rest of the world just to make our everyday commitments. Mr. Ashe, did your neighbors, people next door to you, people around you, did they get a 4.8% raise in their salaries? Did the government overnight, unbeknownst to me, start bringing in 4.8% more revenue? So my question is simple. Why do you continue to ignore the fiscal realities of our nation and submit budgets that frankly should be an embarrassment to you and are frankly disturbing to me?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I understand the larger concern about the deficit, and I think the President's budget is a responsible reflection of the need for careful and disciplined decision making in the context of our budgets. I would say with regard to the Land and Water Conservation Fund proposal in particular, I think we have to go back to 1962. It was President John Kennedy and the Congress at the time that put in place the Land and Water Conservation Fund, and the decision that was made at that time is if we're going to expand access.
Well, let me interrupt you. I apologize because I have limited time. This is not 1962, sir. We were actually balancing budgets back in those days. What we're doing by acquiring more and more land each year and then not having the money to maintain it is like buying your neighbor's yard and refusing to mow it because you don't have the money to do that. So let me take this another step further. The backlog within the National Wildlife Refuge System and the National Fisher Hatchery System currently exceeds $4 billion. Could you enlighten us on how more property will address the significant backlog, and how much revenue does the service actually raise each year?
Chairman, our maintenance backlog right now, deferred maintenance backlog, is about $2.5 billion for the refuge system. That is down $200 million from 2009 to 2011, and that's because of the investment that we made through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. The President has also proposed a $1 billion Veterans Conservation Corps, which will help us address our maintenance and construction needs within the National Wildlife Refuge System. So we're coupling those investments with
the stimulus bill was you would admit the stimulus bill was a one-time chunk of money that we're unlikely to see in the future. And then the question really gets to where, at what point does this become sustainable on its own without Congress having to appropriate more money?
I think the point I'm trying to make is that we are not ignoring our maintenance backlog at all. I think we are taking some very effective steps to manage our maintenance priorities. But land acquisition, as we look at the National Wildlife Refuge System and our ability and to meet our mission requirement, land acquisition and land conservation is an indispensable element of that. So we have to balance the need to maintain what we have, which I think we're doing quite effectively, and to look to the future and make the investments that we'll need to make in for the future.
My time is running out. I would just say parenthetically, I don't see how we can ever get onto that glide path if we continue to buy more land with money we don't have, creating a bigger maintenance problem.